stands for your word. Fields of ash. That's what we want.
Hello, welcome to my Infernalist Minion Build. So let's start off by going over the gems. Since we are Infernalist, we get to summon Infernal Hound, and we use this guy to be our tank. So we get the loyalty support gem here. So 10% of the damage from hits is taken from supported companion's life before you. Then we get Meat Shield 2, so minions from supported skills deal 40% less damage, but they also take 40% less damage. We're running Last Gasp, so whenever he is about to die, he actually dies a few seconds after, and not immediately. We use Elemental Army to give him some elemental resistances. And then for the last one here, we are using rapid attacks, but you can use whatever you want here. It doesn't really matter that much, since we are using him as a damage soaker instead of a damage dealer. And we have a Rattling Scepter, so we get the Skeletal Warriors from there. And here we use Last Gasp, and we use Meat Shield 2. And then for our damage dealers, we are using the Spectre Powered Zealot. This is one of the one of the most powerful Spectres in the game right now. And there is a bugged interaction, I think, with Pierce 3. So Pierce 3 basically says projectiles from supported skills pierce all targets, and then projectiles from supported skills deal 20% less damage for each enemy they pierce. But for some reason they deal damage multiple times to the same enemy when we use this. So this is very, very strong for bosses specifically. You don't really need it for regular mapping or mobbing, because they do so much damage anyway. But I have this in like permanently. Then we use Muster. And Muster is supported minions deal 7% more damage for each different type of reviving minion you have summoned. So that's basically why you see that we have one of each minion here. It is to buff up the damage from the Powered Zealot Muster support. We use Feeding Frenzy, so skills, more minion skills deal 30% more damage, and minions from supported skills take 15% more damage. And for the last two here, which are, like, they're not needed, but they are very good. I have some, optional stuff that you can use instead of these two if you don't have them in the Mobalytics and Max Roll guide that I have. So Raketa's Flow, very good support gem. Hits from supported skills treat enemy monster elemental resistant values as inverted. So let's say you are fighting a boss with 75% resistance. He will have minus 75% resistance instead. And then we use Diala's Desire. So we get +1 to level of supported skill gems, and we also get 10% quality. And why this is so good is obviously for the plus level, but the quality when you used it on a Spectre actually gives more damage, and more is obviously better than increased, since more is multiplicative damage. So base is 20%, but with 10% of quality from support, we get 30%. So these two are very good, but not mandatory. And then we have our Pain Offering. So this skill we use basically only on boss fights, or if there is a very strong rare. So Pain Offering, you basically sacrifice a minion to give your other minions like increased attack and cast speed and increased damage. And for the supports here, we use Brutus Brain. So this means that our Pain Offering cannot deal damage or take damage. So this means that whenever we get our Pain Offering up, it will stay up the whole duration instead of taking like damage from a boss, as an example, and die. We use Dance Macabre, and this gives the Pain Offering 30% increased buff effect, but we also target an additional skeletal minion. So what you want to try to do is to target your skeletal warriors, because we have 2 of them. So doing this, we're gonna lose 7% from the muster, but it's better to do it on the skeletal warriors that we have 2 of, rather than doing it on, let's say, skeletal sniper and storm mage, because that means we're gonna lose 14% from the muster instead of 7. So whenever you can, try to actually target your warriors. Then we use Expanse, so supported skills have 50% increased area of effect, but it also gets a cooldown of 8 seconds. And since we only use it on bosses, and we melt bosses so damn fast, this cooldown is basically non-existent. Or it's existent, but we don't really get affected by it. We use the prolonged duration to have 35% more skill effect duration. And then we use magnified area 1, so we have a 35% increased area of effect. And now for the rest of the minions. So as I mentioned earlier, we only use 1 of each, and that's because of the muster support gem. And the gem setup here, we have 2 gems that are mandatory for each of these minions, and that's gonna be Last Gasp and Meat Shield 2. The next here is optional. Personally, I fit in a little bit of damage, so here we use Minion Mastery, Heft, and Rapid Attacks for the Skeletal Sniper. For the Skeletal Storm Mage, same thing here, Last Gasp, Meat Shield. We use Shock, so we have 100% more chance to shock. We use Overcharge, so the shock magnitude is increased by 50%. And we use Stormfire, so shocks from supported skills do not expire on ignited enemies. And our Infernal Hound here is going to be igniting. So that's a very good support gem to run here, Stormfire. Then we have Skeletal Cleric, and this is our healer / reviver. And we use Techrod's Revenge here. So minions from supported skills die 10 seconds after their life is reduced to 0. So basically the same as Last Gasp, but slightly better. And then minions from supported skills gain Soul Eater when their life is reduced to 0. So Soul Eater is gonna give our Skeletal Cleric increased skill speed. So he will be able to actually heal faster. And this has a duration of 4 seconds, and it stacks up to 50 times. And you lose a stack every 0.5 seconds if you've not been gaining one in the past 4 seconds. So very good. And then minions from supported skills gain 20% increased attack and cast speed when their life is reduced to 0. So yeah, we use him as our healer. We use Rapid Casting, so he heals faster. Meat Shield, so he takes less damage. We use Minion Mastery, and then we use Death March. So Death March is minions from supported skills heal allied minions within 3 meters for 25% of supported minions' life on death, as well as removing all ailments from those minions. Then we have a Skeletal Frost Mage, same thing here, Last Gasp, Meat Shield. We use Minion Mastery, Wild Shards, so supported skills have 25% chance to fire 8 additional projectiles in a circle. And we use Muster here as well. Like the last 3 of all of these 1 minion we have is going to be optional. You can basically put in whatever you want here. And we get an Arsonist. The same thing here. Last Gasp, Meat Shield, Minion Mastery, Magnified Area, and Multi-Shot. Then we use a Reaver. Same thing here. Last Gasp, Meat Shield, Physical Mastery, Rapid Attacks, and Crazed Minion. So that's basically the setup we are running for our minions. And you see I have a Snap here as well. And this is a personal preference for me. It's not going to be needed to have the build functioning at all. But personally, I find it a little bit clunky to weapon swap with the keyboard. So I like to weapon swap or make a weapon swap setup with my mouse instead. So I basically have Snap here on my bar. And what we've done is on all the minions, we only have them on weapon set 1, as you can see here. Weapon set 1. Weapon set 1. So whenever we use Snap, all our minions disappear. And then when we use our Raise Shield, they appear again. Because sometimes on maps that are like tight corridors or something like that, they can get body blocked and end up being stuck and kind of left behind. So the weapon swap technique is very good for that, to basically relocate your minions. Or if you, let's say you want to weapon swap and you run into a big pack of monsters, you can just swap them and they appear immediately on you. Same thing with bosses. Sometimes when you enter a boss arena, they can get stuck behind outside of the boss arena. So weapon swapping them inside is going to be very useful. But as I said, you don't need to run Snap and do this thing that I do. It's just a personal preference. So if you don't use Snap, then I would say put in another minion maybe, if you have the spirit for it, or whatever skill that basically suits you and your playstyle. And another thing I wanted to mention that is mentioned in the build guide of Mobalytics and Maxroll is that if you don't have Rakata's Flow, I would recommend running the Elemental Weakness Curse instead to almost not get the same effect, but get a similar effect at least. And instead of Diala's Desire in the Spectre here, you could use either Rapid Casting, so they attack faster. You could use Minion Mastery for some more damage, or you could use the Vilenta's Propulsion. Let me find this quickly. Here. So the thing with Vilenta's Propulsion and the thing with the Spectre is that if we go in here to their Spark skill, you see that the projectile speed modifier is minus 30%. So whenever they actually proc their Spark, which they are doing all the time, the actual Spark itself move kind of slow, which is very good for bosses, because as we mentioned earlier with Pierce, the actual Spark deals damage multiple times to the same target. So having less projectile speed is actually good for bosses, because the Spark is not gonna hit it and then disappear away. It's gonna be in the same area a little bit longer. So if you don't have the Diala's Desire, you could use the two previous mentions, or you could use Vilenta's Propulsion. This lineage support gem is 50% increases and reductions to cast speed also apply to projectile speed. So if we go into Spark here again, you now see that we have projectile speed modifier is plus 30% instead. I'm not sure why it doesn't show up here now. Well, so yeah, instead of minus 30, you actually get plus 30. So that's something you can do if you don't have those two support gems. And yeah, then we have Raise Shield from our shield. Basically don't slot anything in there, I barely use it. And then Volatile Dead is from our wand, because of the weapon swap technique that I'm personally enjoy doing. So yeah, that's the gems. We can go over the gear. So we are using Rattling Scepter. As I said earlier, it's because we want to have the additional Skeletal Warriors for the Muster support gem. And most important things to get on your scepter, I would say, gonna be increased spirit, as much as you can get, and also as high minion level as you can get. Then personally, I really enjoy having them with increased cast speed and increased damage. The max life is sort of a quality of life thing, because at some point on harder boss fights, they might die. So having increased life is gonna reduce it's gonna make them survive better. And yeah, that's about it. I'm running a rabbit talisman in here for 10% extra or increased spirit. And yeah, you can basically use whatever scepter you want, but I would say the rattling scepter is optimal because of the master support gem. So try to get something similar to this. Then we have our helmet, and most important stat for the helmet is going to be level of all minion skills. That's going to be the most important stat on every gear piece that can get it, because minions scale very well with minion levels. And also try to get some more or increased maximum life. Because we are running Infernalist, we are using Vedat's Will. So we reserve 25% of life, which isn't a big deal. But the thing we get here is +1 to maximum spirit per 25 maximum life. So on all the gear pieces you can get life on, try to get as high as possible to increase your spirit. And we also run Vedat's Hand. So it's the same thing here, +1, but to maximum energy shield per 8 maximum life. So stacking life on a build like this is very good. And then obviously on the rest of the gear, or all the gear, try to cap your resistances and get some energy shield as well. So as you can see here, we are capped on all our resistances. We have 6000 energy shield, and because of the shield here, we have 25% block chance as well. So the defenses are actually pretty good here. And since it's a minion build, we are not actually in the face of the enemies, in the danger. So you don't really need to have very tanky build, but the tankier, the better. And for our amulet, same thing here. You want to have +2 minion skills, and spirit, and max life. And if you can try to squeeze in as much rarity as you can as well, because we all know that rarity is very good for getting drops. So that's what we are using on this one. And then we allocate Warlord Leader. So allies in your presence deal 40% increased damage, but most importantly, 40% increased presence area of effect. Very good, because it's not going to be all the time you are close to your minions. So some of the buffs here and there might not be present. So increasing the presence area will make you actually able to stand a little bit further away from the minions, and they still get the buffs from your scepter, as an example. We are also using the Prism Guardian here, and I would say that this is not mandatory. If you want to, you could run a focus with more resistances, more energy shield, but most importantly, you can get +3, I believe, to minion skills. But personally, I'm using this. It gives quite a lot of resistances, and most importantly, we get +1 to maximum spirit per 25 maximum life. So exactly the same as the Vedat's Will in our Ascendancy. So stacking max life, once again, is going to be very good for this build. And on my rings, I'm using one Ventor's Gamble ring, and this is because it has spirit on it. We also get maximum life, but the max life roll on this particular Ventor's Gamble is kinda low, so if you can, get it as close to 80 as possible. The thing with Ventor's Gambles is that the roll ranges of it is very wacky. So you can end up with minus resistances, quite a lot. I think they go to -40 or +40. So obviously try to get at least plus resistances, high spirit, and high max life, and then you get some rarity as well. For my second ring here, resistances, rarity, and max life. Our body armor, try to get as high energy shield you can, while also have as high spirit as you can. And then again, cap your resistances. For our gloves, you want to have as high energy shield as you can get, squeeze in a little bit of rarity, and then high maximum life. This does not really have that high maximum life, so obviously I could replace this for more maximum life, and that way we'll get more spirit. And our belt, we are using a Darkness Enthroned belt, and this comes from the Abyss, the Kulamak boss fight. So you have a chance here to get a belt that has gain bonuses from socketed items as though it was a helmet. And helmet is the one you want to get. You want to have it as close to 100% as possible. With corruption, you can end up with more than 100%. And in here, you want to slot in Talisman of Ralakesh, so you get 6% increased reservation efficiency of minion skills. And for the boots, we use Bones of Uller, and these boots have 30% increased reservation efficiency, and you can corrupt it to get more than 30. You have some maximum life, you have some energy shield, not that much movement speed. So I would say that this is one of the downsides of running minion builds in general when you use these type of boots, is you're not going to be as fast as many other builds. But yeah, I feel like the trade-off of having the increased reservation efficiency instead of having high movement speed is worth it. So if you don't feel like that is worth it to you, then don't use these boots. You're gonna end up with less minions, but you're gonna be able to move faster. And then our life flask, don't bother too much with this. Personally, I use this one, so we get a pretty good amount of life over 4 seconds, and we also remove 15% of life recovered from mana. Since we are a minion build, we don't use any skills ourselves, so our mana is going to be up all the time, and the mana flask doesn't matter at all. For the charms, I'm using a Thawing Charm, so we are immune to freeze, Stone Charm, so we are immune to stun, and then a Rarity Charm. And yeah, that's it for the gear. Let's take a look at the passive tree. So as previously mentioned, we are Infernalist, and we go for the Hellhound, we go for Altered Flesh, and then leading into Bedat's Will and Bedat's Hand. And personally, when I did my first 2 ascendancy points, or first 2 ascendancies, I went for the Hellhound, and then I went for Bringer of Flames. When I did my 3rd and 4th one, I respect out of Bringer of Flames and went down to Bedat's Will and then Bedat's Hand. And then we are pathing up here for some increased minion damage all the way up, and go for basically all the good minion nodes on the tree. So down here we have some max life, and revive faster. At some point, especially during boss fights, or let's say tier 3 simulacrum, some of your minions will die. So having a faster revive of them is going to help a lot, getting them back on track, starting to kill stuff for you again. Mostly during mapping and regular map bosses, they are not going to die. They're going to kill everything so fast. But for some pinnacle bosses like Arbiter or Simulacrum, they might end up dying. We path up here for more max life, revive faster, and here some increased damage, increased attack and cast speed, and increased damage. Then we path over here to get Crystalline Flesh, so they have increased elemental resistances. We take all of the good nodes here, so increased attack and cast speed, revive faster, damage, and then we go for Growing Swarm. And this makes our minions have increased area of effect, which doesn't really affect this build at all. But most importantly, minions have 20% increased cooldown recovery rate, and that is gonna help our cleric, since our cleric has a revive here. So the cooldown I think is 5 seconds without the growing swarm. With it, we end up on 4.17 seconds. So he's gonna be able to revive more often. We path up here. We go down here to minion attack and cast speed, some damage. Then I went up here for increased presence area of effect. Once again, it's not always that you are gonna be in your presence of the minions to give them the buffs they need. So increasing the presence area of effect will help with that a lot. We go up here, increase damage, and increase the reservation efficiency, some maximum life, and additional damage reduction, and also a bit of chaos resistance. We go over here to give them more resistances. And then, personally, this is optional, but I prefer to get some increased maximum energy shield over here. Same thing over here. And then I actually went with faster start of energy shield recharge, because you are gonna get hit sometime. And the bigger the hit, the more energy shield you're gonna lose. And since we reserve basically half of our life, we only have 1000 life. And if our energy shield gets dropped to 0, a monster can basically look at us and we're gonna die. So personally, I went with some faster start of energy shield recharge rate and increased delay, or reduced delay rather. So we are currently sitting at a recharge delay of 1.5 seconds, and we recharge 1262 energy shield per second. But this is a personal preference. You don't need to do this. You can honestly allocate the extra non-minion points however you want to. And we went down here as well, Eldritch Will, to get 3% increased max life and energy shield, some stun and ailment threshold based on our energy shield. So that's basically it for the passive tree. We can take a look at my jewels. So I would say the most important stats on the jewels is gonna be minions have increased attack and cast speed and increased damage. Then I got some optional stuff for you guys in the build guide of Mobalytics and Max Roll, but I went with presence area of effect. Once again, the bigger the presence area, the better. You don't have to be as close to your minions. We went with offering skills, have increased duration, very good for our pain offering. We have another jewel up here, so basically same thing, increased damage and increased attack and cast speed. Here I have offerings have increased maximum life, which actually don't help at all, since we are using Brutus Brain on our pain offering. And then we have a little bit of chaos resistant to our minions as well. And then another optional gem is going to be Prism of Belief. So +1 is fairly cheap, around 10-ish div, I believe. +2 is pretty expensive. +3 is insanely expensive. So if you can get a +1, nice. If you can get a +2, even nicer. If you can get +3, that would be obviously optimal, but very expensive. So yeah, if you're not gonna run any Prism of Belief at all, try to run a similar jewel to these two, or at least try to get a +1. So that's it for the skill tree. And another thing I wanted to show you guys is that you can actually see your presence area of effect. You don't really have any visuals of it in the game like as it is now. But if you go to your, let's say, Rattling Scepter here, and you hover over presence, as you can see, you get like a, down here, you see a green ring. So if I would have gone to a place where we might be able to see it better. Yeah, you don't really see it better here. Sorry. But yeah, if you hover over the presence, you actually see the green ring to be able to see your presence area. And with the setup we are running currently, it's almost the full screen. So you are always going to be in your presence of the minions. And yeah, we can take a look here at the stats again. So basically cap your resistances, get as much energy shield and life as you can get, and as high spirit as possible. That's gonna help. So currently running 17 of the Spectres. Then, as I mentioned previously, 1 of each here for the Master Support gem, and the 2 warriors come from the Scepter itself. Yeah, that's about it for the build guide. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comment section down below. And I will also have a Mobalytics and a max roll written guide in the description. So if you guys prefer that or want to have a look at it, then feel free to do so. Thanks a lot for watching, have a good day, and see you next time.